Okay, time for a new video, and whether you are somebody new to my channel or you are returning to my channel to watch this video, it is greatly appreciated. As always, I'm filming this video in one go, so if I stumble over my words moving forwards, apologies about that, and also if the quality of this video is fairly poor as well, if there's any lag, anything like that at all, sadly it cannot be helped, and hopefully it is not too much of an issue for you. This is yet another Eurovision related video here on my channel, and the first one for a while, and today I'm filming the first in what will be a sporadic, long-running series now on this channel entitled What We Know So Far. And I've been doing this for a number of years now, and of course we are looking ahead to the 2024 edition of the Eurovision Song Contest. It's only been just over a month since the 2023 edition came to its end in Liverpool, with Sweden winning for a record-equaling 7th time, of course. Tattoo by Loreen. She came out on top, the first woman to win twice. Congratulations to her. But we must now look ahead to next spring's Sweden staged show. That's a bit of a mouthful. Try saying that when you've had a few drinks. So I've got some information in front of me to make sure I don't forget anything too important. As always, you're very welcome to let me know your thoughts on anything I discuss in today's video by leaving a comment or checking out my other social media pages. Links in the description, as always. So really, there's not a whole lot to say, because as I'm filming this video you're watching now, it is coming up to the end of June 2023. So we are still months and months away from finding out lots of details about next year's competition, such as the hosts, the stage design, the slogan. All of that stuff will be later in the year once the summer has passed. But it is likely we are going to be finding out the host city of next year's competition next month. It seems as though it's full steam ahead in Sweden. They're not messing about, and it's very, very impressive. They're very efficient with this sort of thing, and we should have expected that because they've been that way in the past. What I will say is that in the past, it seems as though Sweden have been very confident about their chances of victory at a particular contest, and so they start preparing to host before they've even won. And I think that was sort of maybe the case this year. They had a very good feeling that Tattoo was probably going to come out on top, and so they probably already had some preliminary plans in place. Very smart. Anyway, what we know is that the 68th edition of the ESC will take place on the 11th or 18th of May next year. It's always usually the middle of May. This is not really much of a surprise. The semi-finals, therefore, would be on the 7th or 14th of May, or the 9th or 16th of May. It also says here that this will be the 7th time Eurovision takes place in Sweden, most recently in Stockholm in 2016. It was in Malmö in 2013, in Stockholm in 2000, at the very same venue as the 2016 competition, in Malmö again in 1992, that was the first time there, just across the road from the venue that was used in 2013. In 1985 it was in Gothenburg, the only time it's been there, and in 1975, the first time on Swedish territory, in Stockholm. It says here, immediately after Sweden's win this year, the first cities to voice their interest in hosting the 2024 edition were the big three: Stockholm, Gothenburg and Malmö, the three largest cities in the country, as well as the ones to have previously hosted the ESC. Besides these, a number of other cities also expressed their intention to bid in the days that followed, namely Eskilstuna, Jönköping, Örnsköldsvik, Partille and Sandviken. SVT, Swedish Television, set a deadline of June the 12th for interested cities to formally apply. Stockholm and Gothenburg did so, followed by Malmö and Örnsköldsvik on the 13th of June. The other cities pulled out for various reasons. So let's go through the possible venues one by one in not too much detail here. First of all, Gothenburg, which has the Scandinavium, or Scandinavium, which opened in 1971, on the 18th of May 1971. It's been renovated twice, expanded once, and they're tearing it down. How about that? To the best of my knowledge, they are demolishing this venue at some point very soon and rebuilding it just across the road, pretty much. That's what I know about this particular venue. It's shaped like a Pringle. It's got this sort of curved roof, shall we say. It's hosted Eurovision before, back in 1985, and that contest is regarded as a high point in the history of the ESC. It's used for ice hockey, it's also been used for figure skating, athletics, synchronized skating, handball, etc., etc. It was also in contention to host Eurovision in 2013, and loads of musicians have performed there too. It's also the home of the annual Gothenburg horse show, which I believe is quite a big deal. So there you go. Now, this venue could be chosen. It seems as though it's not going to be demolished for some time yet, maybe within the next year though. However, the roof apparently isn't particularly great, and there needs to be adjustments, it says here, for the lighting equipment. So there you go. It's not looking too great for Gothenburg, but they could do it if they pulled their finger out. As for Malmö, well, we know all about this. It's the Malmö Arena, which is the home of the ice hockey club Malmö Redhawks. It's the largest arena in the Swedish Hockey League, heavens above, and the second largest indoor arena in Sweden. Although you wouldn't think so looking at this picture, but there we are. Of course, it hosted Eurovision in 2013. It has a capacity of 15,500 for concerts. It's used every year for Melfest as well. Swedish Idol has been staged there. Loads of musicians have performed there over the years, including Bob Dylan and Lady Gaga, to name but a few. It's a relatively modern build. It opened in 2008. It's a little bit out of the way, but that's not really too much of a problem. This is a venue that's done it before. Surely it could do it again. And it seems as though there's not really any complications with events taking place at the arena next May, which would put the kibosh on a Eurovision bid. As with Gothenburg, the arena's not looking the greatest. Örnsköldsvik, fine, but it's a little bit on the smaller side and a little bit more out of the way, you could argue. As for Stockholm, you'd think absolutely the best choice, which it sort of is, but there's still complications there, which I'll get onto in a moment. I should say the venue in Gothenburg has a capacity of 14,000 for concerts, which is still quite a bit higher than what we've had in recent years. In Liverpool, I think it was only about, I don't know, 6,000 or 7,000 in the actual arena, if that, which is pretty darn low if you ask me. And then in Turin, well, Turin was actually fairly sizable, it must be said. But Rotterdam was quite low because of the ongoing pandemic. Tel Aviv, that was a pretty titchy arena. So yeah, certainly we haven't always had big places stage Eurovision over the past couple of years, but it is what it is. Anyway, let's move on because I'm starting to ramble. The Hägglunds Arena in Örnsköldsvik, which I'm probably mispronouncing terribly there, has a capacity of just under 10,000 for concerts. Opened in 2006. It's right next to the water, which is lovely. Very similar to Liverpool this year, I suppose. It's hosted curling and ice hockey, and lots of musicians have performed there, including Thomas Ledin, Eurovision star himself, and Alice Cooper. Melfest has also taken place there a couple of times. So there we go, lovely stuff. Opened in 2006, yes. It's a bit of an outside bet though, but then again, it's the only city here on the shortlist that hasn't hosted Eurovision before. That leaves Stockholm, the capital city of Sweden. There are 3 locations in contention as of right now, and I don't think that's going to change. The first one I'll mention is the Tele2 Arena, or the Stockholms Arenan. Again, a relatively new build, opened in 2013, cost an absolute ton of money to construct it, and it is a football stadium. It's the home of Djurgårdens and Hammarby. It has a capacity of anywhere between 30 and 35,000 for football matches and 45,000 for concerts. So if Eurovision was to take place here, it wouldn't be 45,000, it would be significantly less than that, but it would still be a huge crowd indeed. I don't think it's had anything to do with Melfest over the years, but it is right next door to the Avicii Arena, or the Globen, which hosted Eurovision in 2016 and 2000 and hosted the final of Melfest for many, many years. It's right next door to that, southern Stockholm here. Loads of musicians have performed there. Robin, absolutely fantastic. Lalle, who's fantastic, is also going to be the first Swedish female artist to headline a concert at the arena later this year. Justin Bieber's performed there. Celine Dion, Adele, Paul McCartney. Yeah, everybody you can think of, pretty much. Lovely stuff. It would be fantastic for Eurovision. Very similar to 2011 when it was held at the football stadium in Dusseldorf, of course. However, the preferred venue of the Stockholm City Council is the Friends Arena or Friends Arena or National Arenan, which is actually located right out of the way in the other direction, northern Stockholm, in Solna. A little bit similar to 2010. You may recall that the venue in Oslo, the Telenor Arena, that was, again, right out of the way. It wasn't really in Oslo at all, but there we are. It has a capacity of 65,000 at concerts and 50,000 for football matches, but the stadium can be scaled down to provide for smaller events with approximately 20,000 guests. That's what might happen if this venue is chosen for Eurovision next year. However, I'm not sure that's looking too great now, and I'll explain why in a moment. Again, a relatively new build, opened almost a decade ago. It's the home of the Swedish national football team, AIK Stockholm, and the final of Melfest. Absolutely fantastic. It's a lovely, lovely venue, it must be said. Would be absolutely incredible for Eurovision. Now, I don't know about you, but whenever I see clips of the Melfest final over the past couple of years when it's been staged at this particular venue, it always does look a bit odd. The atmosphere must be incredible, no doubt about that. But it's a fairly small stage and this massive black wall, and whenever they do wide shots, it just looks not the most aesthetically pleasing. So how they'd rejig this for Eurovision, I'm not entirely sure. But there we are. It's fantastic, lights up around the side, wonderful, wonderful stuff. Wasn't it used for the European Championships? Or am I making that up? I have no idea. But yes, football is obviously its main use. So there we go. That's the choice, the preferred choice of the Stockholm City Council, and I think a lot of Eurovision fans want it to take place there as well. However, a certain Miss Taylor Swift is performing at this venue on May the 17th next year, I believe. And her Eras tour is a massive deal. The stage is huge. It's a really, really massive production. So, if she's performing on the 17th of May, that sort of maybe messes up Eurovision. Because, of course, to stage Eurovision, the arena in question needs to be free for about a month and a half to get all of the equipment in, and then you need to get it all out again. So it could be staged at the Friends Arena on Saturday, May the 11th. But then it would be a real race against the clock to get all of the Eurovision stuff out of there and Taylor's stuff in. And honestly, Taylor's stage and LED wall is probably going to be bigger than what we get at Eurovision next year anyway. So it's a real operation, this. Another complication, which I haven't even touched on yet, is that the football teams in question, not only at the Friends Arena, but the Tele2 Arena, they're not happy. They don't want to move. To which I say, you may as well. It happened in 2011. Fortuna Dusseldorf, I believe it was. They moved. These teams can move as well. Surely it's not too difficult. It is what it is. Now, the third location. I'm starting to ramble big time. Dear me, what a state. The third choice in Stockholm, and I have to say the one that's looking more likely than ever now, is, as it says here on Wikipedia, an ad hoc non-permanent arena. How about that? What a name for a venue. It says here, in late June of this year, so right now, multiple Swedish media outlets, newspapers, things like that, reported that Stockholm's bid was set around building a temporary arena in Frihamnen, which is sort of a port of Stockholm, motivated by the production needs of the contest and difficulties in finding vacant venues during the required weeks. Yes, there's been a few complications. which I've already touched on. So they could be building a brand new, somewhere in the region of 15,000-seater stadium. A little bit similar to the World Cup in Qatar last year. One of the stadiums was made out of shipping boxes and things like that. And then they just sort of took it down once the football was over. We could see something similar for Eurovision next year. Some people have concerns, saying it would feel like 2014 in Copenhagen. Copenhagen did not really have a suitable venue. They do now, but back then not so much. And so they just used this rather run-down, grim-looking shipyard, which these days is still looking like a run-down, pretty grim shipyard. But inside, they spruced it up like you wouldn't believe. And of course, 2014 was a really successful, very visually, aesthetically pleasing-looking contest. Something similar could happen again. However, I think the majority of Eurovision fans, and I have to say myself included, would prefer a venue that's already there. However, I did read on one website that Stockholm has definitely submitted its bid to Swedish television, so I imagine they've gone full steam ahead with one particular venue, possibly this ad hoc, non-permanent arena. And I read something about how they want it to be a sort of green venue, so good for the environment. So maybe building a new temporary venue is a good idea. I don't really know. But that's that. We will probably find out the host city within a couple of weeks, and I will make a video about that as and when. Let me know your thoughts on those cities in question. As for the provisional list of participating countries, so far 17 have confirmed their intention to take part. They are Austria, Cyprus, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Iceland, Ireland, who really need to pull something special out of the bag next year, Israel, Italy, the return of Luxembourg, more on that in just a moment, Malta, Moldova, the Netherlands, Norway, Spain, and of course Sweden. Absolutely wonderful stuff. Luxembourg last competed in 1993 when I was just a few months old. It's wonderful that they are coming back. It was sort of out of the blue, the announcement that they would be returning, because for the past couple of years the general consensus has been that the broadcaster RTL in Luxembourg weren't interested in taking part. They weren't interested in entertainment shows in general, but now all of a sudden they are, and I have a feeling they could be having a national final. I did read something about that, so who knows? Absolutely wonderful stuff. And of course, the more countries taking part, the merrier. I should say, it says here Greece may be having a national final. North Macedonia may come back if their financial situation is better. Switzerland almost certainly will be taking part, and there's talk here about a songwriting camp that takes place every year. And the UK, disappointing result this year, but Andrew Cartmel, the executive producer of the contest this year, said it's important to maintain high quality standards in selecting future UK entries. We also know that Bosnia and Herzegovina and Slovakia will not be joining the party next May. What a great shame. Slovakia haven't competed for a long time now, and Bosnia, they last took part when the contest was last in Sweden, in Stockholm in 2016. So yes indeed. And also, whilst I've got the page loaded up here, no news on Bulgaria or Montenegro just yet. Indeed. As for the voting system, now apparently there is going to be a reference group meeting in January of next year. The Norwegian broadcaster has piped up and said that they've been having talks with the EBU regarding a potential revision of the jury voting procedure. This is A, because Norway haven't always fared terribly well with the juries in the past couple of years. Kano and Alessandro spring to mind. And also Finland, of course, won the public vote by such a crushing margin this year. A lot of people were miffed that Sweden still won in the end. I'm hoping they don't scrap the juries. We do need those juries, absolutely. All you need to do is reform them somehow. I could make a video all about this at some point in the near future. If people want to see it, I'm happy to film it. But I'll warn you now, it will be a big ramble. And lots of other people have made videos like this as well over the past couple of weeks. Should there be a jury vote anyway? Should there just be some sort of reform? I don't know. Apparently as well, the Swedish broadcaster, they just love to change things. Whenever Eurovision is in Sweden, you know things will be changed. It says here that they want to reduce the running time of the final by about an hour. Of course, the running time has significantly increased since the introduction of the opening flag parade, which doesn't actually take that long, to be honest with you, and the split jury televote system. So one of those things is probably going to go. Something else that could be introduced next year, and I've said this before, and I'm not really a fan, but it is what it is, the points system in Melfest, the age range voting. Do not be surprised if SVT for Eurovision next year fancy introducing that at the competition. How that would work, I don't really know, but I wouldn't be surprised if it comes along sooner rather than later. And also, pre-recording backing vocals are almost certainly going to be staying as well. There's also a little bit here about the semi-final allocation draw, but we don't need to worry about that yet. And there's a few other little bits and pieces too, but again, they are not worth really mentioning. So, that's pretty much it. Talk about certain cities in question, and the amount of countries that so far, at this stage, wouldn't mind taking part next spring. I don't think there's anything else to touch on. I am expecting it to be Stockholm. It is the best choice. Malmö does seem as though it's ready and waiting to do it, but will the Swedish broadcaster want to go back there again? It's only been what will be 11 years next year since it was last there. I don't really know. Of course, you've got the outside bet as well. Is that a serious contender? I don't know. Remember, people looked at Liverpool as a bit of an outside bet, and then Liverpool was chosen in the end. I don't know. It's going to be very, very interesting. Of course, had Finland won, I'd be sitting here right now saying it's between Helsinki, Tartu, Tampere, etc., etc. But no, we are talking about the contest heading back to Sweden once more. Can you believe it? And I have a feeling we'll be back there again, probably before the end of this decade. Who knows? Anyway, enough rambling. Let me know what you think about what we know so far regarding next year's edition of the ESC, and I'll be back soon with more Eurovision related content. I'm not entirely sure what that's going to be yet, but rest assured there will be more videos throughout the summer. So until then, take care of yourselves, stay safe. Hopefully the quality of this video wasn't too bad, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.